Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our new location. We are now on YouTube. We are always on YouTube, but this morning we are only on YouTube as part of the walkout, as you've discovered. Good morning, Richard. Good morning, Powell. Good morning, everyone who are joining us. Today's learning is dedicated in memory of Leah Bas Feivel, Tzivi Bas Mordechai, Avram ben David Slabin, Shlom ben Yisrael Morris, Eliezer ben Shmuel Teret, Eliezer Shalom ben Abu Shmuel Beres, Tzipora Feger Bas Reuven Baruch, Shalom ben Elia Lee, Bena Bas Feivel, from Shoshana Bas Yaakov Shmuel, and the yortzites for today, Shimon Zev ben Naphtali, Sarah Bas Yaakov, Avraham ben Michael, Shmuel ben Aaron. Wish their respective families long life and only simchas. Gradually, people are finding their way from Facebook to YouTube Live. Yes, this is the home of Woodside Park. This is the hub. This is where it's happening. And this is the place where we are this morning. It's a new location. I have to say that it's quite comfortable here. But we'll do the best we can for another 24 hours, and then we'll be back on Facebook as well as YouTube Live. So I don't know if he's on, but I want to wish, in particular to David Terrett, I want to wish him long life. I know he finishes saying Kaddish today at Mincha, and David's been coming to shul every day. David, we wish you and your family, once again, long life and only simchas. Good morning, Rachel. Good morning, Andrea. Good morning, Richard. Good morning, Powell. Good morning, everyone. I can now see your comments despite being on YouTube. Okay, so today is a phenomenal Mishnah, phenomenal Mishnah. So today's Mishnah is about love, okay? And it's really about our mindset for life. So let's have a look at that Mishnah. Let's jump straight in. I know people are still making their way. They've seen the signs on Facebook, and they've seen that you've got to join to YouTube, and it's a huge adventure and journey and odyssey from Facebook to YouTube, but people are gradually making it. Yes, Estelle, this is today's David Goldring. Good morning. Yes, you're in the right place at the right time. You couldn't be in a better place, in fact. So we welcome everyone as they're making their way in. I really do feel sometimes that it's like, you know, like in the clinic, when you're in school, and it's like a sign on the door, and it says, you know, you now go to 2OB instead of 1ZO. And then gradually people are coming through the door, finding their way there. And that's exactly what's happening. So good morning to everyone. We're going to make a start. Kol ava shehitzluya b'dava. Any love which is dependent on something, botel dava b'tela ava. So when you make your love dependent on something, then when that thing no longer exists, then the love disappears. Okay? And we have to understand this, because I don't want to do these Mishnayos with you superficially. So I want to ask them, there's something troubling about what the statement that they've just made, and hopefully together we can figure it out. But I'm delighted 19 people have made that conversion from Facebook to YouTube Live. What an achievement. See what you've learned over the last year. You can now move absolutely seamlessly from YouTube to Facebook. And just to confuse you, tomorrow we are still on YouTube, but the day after we'll be on Facebook, but we'll also be on YouTube. But I should mention that on Thursday, so not tomorrow, but on Thursday, it is Tisha B'Av, a day of intense mourning over all the tragedies, all the terrible persecution that the Jewish people have suffered, the Holocaust, the pogroms, the Crusades. It is a day when we mourn our loss. And at 8:30 there will be a Shacharis that will be streamed, followed by Kinnos and discussion with Rabbi Kiva and myself from 8:30. So the discussion and the English part will probably be around 9:15, 9:30 for an hour, half an hour him, half an hour me. I'd encourage everyone to come to that. Obviously, it's not quite the way that we would envisage it being, but it is what it is. We have to make the best of the situation. Also on Wednesday night, there will be Eicha, and we will be beginning the mourning process, sitting in the shul or in the hall in relative darkness, saying the Eicha Megillah, that will be streamed as well to Facebook and YouTube Live. Okay, so that's basically where we are. So therefore, Mishnah in the morning will be tomorrow. Let's get this clear. Tomorrow on YouTube, and then it will be on Friday. It'll be on Friday on Facebook and YouTube. Okay, so tomorrow on YouTube, and after that on Friday on Facebook and YouTube Live. I hope I've got that right. If not, Andrea, I'm sure will join in. When you have a love, and that love is dependent on something, right? When that thing disappears, when it dissipates, then the love goes. And when it is not dependent on anything, then it doesn't disappear forever. What is the type of love that was dependent on something? That is the love between Amnon and Tamar. That is when the love is not dependent on something. That is the love of David and Jonathan. David, who was King David, and Jonathan, his lifelong friend. So let's try and understand what exactly that Mishnah means. Okay, because, and this is where I am a bit yes, buongiorno, thank you, Alex. This is why I'm a bit troubled, and because every love, right, is based on something. When you send your kids on, when I was going to say on shidduchim, but let's say in our circles, you send your kids start to go out, right? Probably 10 years before you actually thought they went out, but let's say they eventually go out. So, good morning, Michelle. So, therefore, when they start to go out, there is commonality, right? There are things. Every love is based on something. You can't say that a love is not based on anything. So how can our Mishnah, how can the wise statement of our sages say that any love that is dependent on something, then when that thing is nullified or disappears, then the love disappears. Every love starts off based on something, right? You may love, I don't know, you may have shared interests, right? Usually you go out with somebody that you've got something in common with, at least at the beginning. And, and then, for example, there may be other factors, I hope there are, why it is that you chose to go out or to have a deep love for someone. I'm not talking about your children, because, your children you love because they are your children, okay? So, but let's move on. So let's try and understand this now. So when the Mishnah says any love that is dependent on a specific cause, one of the explanations is that where it is dependent on something external, for example, something material, or something like wealth or beauty, right? So therefore, it's not that you're loving something which is external to the person, which leads you to love that person. But why do you love that person? Because of that thing. So I'm attracted by, the trappings of wealth. I'm love the person because of the external beauty. Okay. When that beauty goes, right, then, or when I no longer find that person beautiful, then I fall out of love. That is what our Mishnah is saying. Now, what the Mishnah is not saying, okay, just to be clear before I get people commenting, what the Mishnah is not saying is that you don't, you cannot, your love obviously is because of a reason, okay? Our love always starts out being because we love things in people, okay? So again, you may love their I don't know, their smile. You may love, you may love the fact that you can talk to them for hours. But there is a difference between the love which is dependent on something which is relatively external, right, to the person, rather than that a feeling or a love which is based on something which is internal. It's an integral part of who they are. So, for example, you love their character, right? You have an admiration for who they are, right? That is not something that will necessarily pass. And hopefully you will find other things in that person to love them for even more so, okay? So there is external love and there is internal love, where it's very superficial, where it's based on things that come and go, the wealth, the beauty, the trappings, or whatever it is, the externals, they come and they go with the passing of time. But where it is that it is something that it's an integral part of that person, right? Then that is a love that will be for eternity. So the example of a love that is for all time is that of David and Jonathan. They were like soulmates. Okay, in other words, their love was purely based upon a feeling that there was this mutual love and respect between each other, that they were in it together, that they were trying to work together to bring out the best in each other, to bring out the very best in each other. I think that's the best way of putting it. So therefore, when we find ourselves not necessarily loving someone, it's probably because that love was never based on internals. Now, that doesn't mean that if it starts off being internal, that that your love can never dissipate, right? The work is, we all know in relationships, to keep building and working on that love, right? We always describe life and growing in Yiddishkeit and love as being like going up a downward escalator. Okay, you're going up. You've got to keep moving upwards just to stay still. Otherwise, naturally inertia will take over and you'll be down the bottom of the escalator. I got to tell you, actually, just as an aside, I went to Brent Cross. Don't ask why. One of the kids wanted to go, and I have to tell you that when you one of the most scary things is going on an escalator or in the lifts. I never thought about it before, but the scary thing is because you usually would put your hand on the side rails, okay, or you would go into and we are all become so self-conscious, so worried, right? So OCD about who touched the handrails before that, it's a pretty scary experience nowadays, something that we took for granted. Anyways, let's move on to the next Mishnah, okay? So basically, that is the essence of the Mishnah, that if love is dependent on something specific, something external, it will not endure. It will only endure as long as that thing still exists, because that is what drew you to the person, okay? Now, that doesn't mean that, by the way, just one more point, that we don't start off, that we're not meant to be attracted to people, right? That external things, you cannot like or admire in a person. But if that's the sum total, if that is the end game, if that is all your love is, then you have an issue. Next one. I don't have a watch on, which is very dangerous. Any argument that is for the sake of heaven, then it will endure. If it is not for the sake of heaven, it will not endure forever. So I'm actually going to stop there, and I'm going to pose a question, and I'm going to leave it with you to answer as we all conclude here. So the question is as follows. We said any argument that is for the sake of heaven, it will continue forever. And if it's not for the sake of heaven, it will not endure forever. Now I ask you, my dear friends, my dear brothers and sisters, surely, I know we are an argumentative people, we spoke about that last night, but surely we don't want argument. Oseh shalom bimramav, we say every day. Hu yaseh shalom, may he make peace. Aleinu, over us, but on Kol Yisrael, and over all of Israel. If that's the case, then why is it that we would say any argument that is for the sake of heaven, it will endure forever? Any argument that is not for the sake of heaven, right, it will not endure forever. Surely it should be the other way around, right? We don't want an argument to endure. We want there to be peace in the world. I'll leave you with that conundrum for you to answer to, well, it'll be tomorrow, okay? So we'll stop there. Fascinating Mishnah. I learned a lot this morning. I hope that you did. And now we will say for the Psalm 23, okay. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Even when I walk in the valley of darkness, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forevermore. Memorial prayer. Amalei Rachamim Shaychen Ban Roimim Amsim Luchana Akampesh Nemolos Kedoshim Eterin Kazara Kimasim Es Nishmois Lebas Bible Tzivia Bas Mordechai Avram ben David Slavin Shlomo ben Yisrael Morris Eliezer ben Shmuel Teret Eliezer Shalom ben Avram Shmuel Beres Tzipar Pegel Bas Reuven Baruch Shalom ben Eli Ali Ben Bas Bible from Shoshana Bas Yaakov Shmuel Shimon Zev ben Naphtali Sarbas Yaakov, Abram ben Michael, Shmo ben Aaron, Shalchu li olamam began Eidei Teminu Chasam Lachein Malrachamim Yasirei V'Soisei Kanapam Yolamim V'Yisovas Chaim Teshmasam Adonai Nachlasam V'Yanuchu B'Shalom Amishkavam and Amar Amen. Long life to all those that have your side are saying Kaddish. We conclude with the Refuah Shlema prayer. Sadly, COVID is back in Spain. It's spreading again in Europe, in Antwerp, I heard, which is where Gil is from. Many cases. So we have to pray so intently now when we make a refuah shlema. We don't want it to come back. We don't want it to spread to Britain and other places. And we want everyone who has it to get healthy. So join with me. Mi sheberach Avosenu Avram Yisrael Yaakov Moshe Aaron David Shlomo Yivarach Rebbetzach Cholim. Babu Sha'anu Mispalim Babu Ram B'Zchus HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachum Aleichem Lachmal Chasam V'Yishlach Lehem Foshinim V'Nishmayim Lecholim V'Soch Shach Yisrael Refuah Sanef Shvus HaKuv Hashavak Zman Karev Amar Amen. For Shalema to all those that are unwell, I think I've covered everything. And now I'm told that it is summer holidays, so my kids are home from school. Come, look, he's home from school. I thought you've been home for the last 4 months, but now apparently he's officially home from school. So now I have to do something with my kids, as if we didn't have things to do. We were teaching our kids for the last 4 months, but there you go. It's all fun and games. It was so amazing to see so many people here. You had an excuse today in that YouTube you were struggling to connect and find your way to. There'll be no excuse for coming late tomorrow. Do you hear me, everyone? I want to see you on time. Bring your friends. Tomorrow's the last one before we have a shutdown for Tisha B'Av. And we're going to be discussing about an argument for the sake of heaven and not for the heaven. What's the right way to argue? What's the wrong way to argue? I'm sure we'll find a way of agreeing or disagreeing on that. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone. Enjoy. Be well. Be safe. Take care.